please. Yeah, what's the problem, sir? We just drove down our farm track. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it. Yeah. Yeah, Tears, but they're dead. Tears that have been shot. Is there any signs of life or what? Yeah. I've tapped on the window. Right. And they've not moved, and when I've looked, there's blood all over them. Colour? Blue Range Rover. A blue Range Rover.
Welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productions. Back with us again is Mr. Albert Patric. Thank you, Albert.
Pleasure.
Back onto the Essex boy case. So we'll just start with, we still understand that you're reviewing the case, is that correct?
Correct.
So what have you uncovered so far?
Well, I'm now 18 months down the road. What have we uncovered? Just not me. The social media interest in this case around Essex and around the world as well, but most principally Essex, is just outstanding, unbelievable. I've already mentioned crime scene in the courtroom. I think they've done a great job. The Essex boys. You've got Adam, forget his second name.
Adam Ball.
Adam Ball, that's him.
Adam Ball, South End guy.
South End guy. He's interesting. You're with me. The paranormal, as they say.
Yeah.
But he comes up with a name, and interestingly, he doesn't say it was Michael or Jack that's responsible. So that was intriguing and interesting. And obviously I've read the books, Blogs 19, etc. So there's a fair bit that's come out of that, and you listen to people who make a decision based on what they believe is the case, but having looked at it in more depth over the last 18 months, they're not quite right. Mm-hmm. So I applaud them for involved in, and sometimes they talk a little rubbish, but that's the way life is at the moment. Yeah. We're faced with probably too much time on our hands because of COVID, and I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for COVID, to be quite honest. I was 4 days a week at the rugby club, busy as hell, and that all stopped basically overnight. Yeah. Back, we won yesterday, so that was a good sign. Darren Nicholls is a self-confessed liar, you with me? And his account is now totally uncorroborated. Yeah, so park that. We already had a go at Darren Nicholls in the previous interview, but just never in the month of Sundays should he have been allowed to manipulate the account that he gave, because there was no challenge. There was no, well, let's go and try and corroborate what he's saying, and I'll explain that in detail when I look at the timeline as a starter for 10. William Jasper's account. Now, we've heard about William Jasper, I'm sure. He gave evidence at the trial, but let me just give you the background to Jasper. Jasper was arrested at Forest Gate for an armed robbery. And whilst we're having a comfort break, as you do, it's a fag in the backyard, he says, I can tell you about the Rettendon murders, I know who did it. Words to that effect. So he gave his account. I've got his account here, I'll read parts of it in a second. Yeah. But he says that he was, and this is on the 16th, 17th, 18th of January, 96, 4 months before Nicholls is arrested. So he's giving an account of what he says he did and who was responsible. Got to be careful what I say here, because some of the people that he named are still alive and some of the people who he named have passed away. So as I talk you through the William Jasper account, hopefully at the end of it you'll have the same concerns that I have, that Essex Police did not do a professional investigation of William Jasper's account. It's been appeal court, and the defence have lost it, so you've got difficulties around how we improve the Jasper account. So here we go. Document 196 is a schedule put together by Essex Police that names people responsible. Guess what? William Jasper's account is nowhere on that schedule 196. Nowhere at all on that schedule, because I'll explain what Jasper said to the police at Forest Gate and what they did. I was a driver, he says. I went to a gym in Cannon Town, I picked up a car, I went to a premises in Dagenham and picked up a bag, and then picked up a man called Mr. D. Mr. Gale, who passed away, he says he was there to hand over the bag, and he drove to Rettendon, and he went not anywhere near Workhouse Lane but around the back. And if you go up round to Rectory Lane and come in the back, you can actually get across the fields in about 5 minutes. Right, okay, so here we go. Jasper says he did that, and the officers from Forest Gate took him there, right? They then told the incident room, and to a detective sergeant, a DC, go to Forest Gate, take him back and interview him, yes? And he gives the same account, yet that he told the police at Forest Gate, and they took him to the same occasion. Now, it's a bit difficult for him because it's pitch black, and he did have difficulty finding the exact drop-off point, but he's given an account. He said he'd been to Palms Hotel, he's been to the gym in Cannon Town, and he's named the people. And who he named, I can say it now, is Patsy Clark as the organiser of the hit, the contract. So he's at the top of the tree. Next one down is a Mr. T, who's connected to the gym. Below that is a man called Gale, Jesse Gale, Billy Gale, who supplied the firearms. Mr. D, who he took to the crime scene, or the top at the back of the crime scene, he's the gunman, and Mr. Jasper himself was the driver in a plated Fiat Uno motor car, as I said, he got from the gym. So that's his account. Not only did he give that an interview, but he wrote it down himself, right? And the motive that he gave for it was that one of the three in the Range Rover owed Patsy Clark 300 grand from an armed robbery, right? And that's his account, and I'll read it here. I'll just read the first bit to it. And I think it's important to hear this. This is from Jasper's own account, yeah? One of the three, he says, not three in the Range Rover owed Patsy Clark 300 grand from stolen cash in a robbery. He was friends with a man called Peter from working the doors. The cash was to be laid down until Clark got out, because, as you know, Clark was put away for dishonest hand in the proceeds of the Brink's-Mat job, yeah, and the cash had gone missing. Clark didn't like this, so he asked, and he spells it A-R-S-K, Mr. T to sort something out, and then he goes on to give his account with others. That's done. So that's basically what happened in relation to the Jasper account. I'll repeat the date, 16th, 17th, 18th of January. That's in his own handwriting, and that doesn't appear in the intelligence schedule 196 where all the others are named. Yeah, so something not right there for me.
Yeah,
that should be.
Surely you investigate that as an option.
Yeah, well, let me just come to it. This is why I need to talk to the Chief Constable of Essex. Not him personally, but give me your best detective, Chief, and let me sit down with your best detective in Essex, yeah, and I'll explain where we, the public, we, the humans of the world, have got a serious concern, and 4 senior detectives together on TMI, have been working to this end result. Now, listen, I could be wrong. Don't mind that. Yeah, Jasper could be talking a load of crap. Don't mind that. But go through the process of corroboration, of proving or disproving his account. And this is the decision log by Mr. Dibley, on the 18th of January at 17:15 hours, no decision number, and the decision is Jasper to be released back to the custody of the MPD who have other offences to investigate. Reason: Jasper has to date given 3 different accounts of his involvement in this case. None of these accounts can be corroborated in any way and do not fit with the current intelligence, direction and evidence already available in relation to this incident. What on earth is that all about? Because Jasper has named the people, he said where they were, the lines of inquiry, because I would have highlighted his account, marked up actions, if I was action allocator in the incident room, marked up CCTV at the hotel, at the gym, mobile phone please, when they've got to have mobile phones. In fact, he says in his statement that Mr. D had a mobile phone. So, get hold of that number, get the billings for that.
Surely you would go into that to eliminate it.
Absolutely.
Rather than just cast it to one side, you would investigate.
Lee, I've been pulling my hair out on this one, right? Now, David, the boss, David from TMI, his nickname for me is Rockvalor, right? Because he grasps on and he will not let go. And the word that he uses on the Jasper account is compelling. It is compelling. It's a damn sight more compelling than the Nicholls account. And when you put the names and the faces, all of whom, believe it or not, I know. I used to wrestle Mr. T, all right? So from my sporting days, I know him very well. Patsy Clark, I know a lot of people very close to him, so that is another name that puts the hairs up your back and said, he is the power, or he would have the power to organise it. Didn't know Mr. Gale with me, so I can't answer. And as I said, Mr. D, the research on that I have dug into, he was the type of person who could stand there and fire 8 bullets with no compassion whatsoever. You with me? No problems whatsoever. Yeah, and believe it or not, he's a size 8, and Nicholls, not Nicholls, Jasper says he was wearing trainers on the night.
Just going into that, so that there was a footprint found, wasn't there?
At the side of the Range Rover, not identified to anybody, not a size 12 Wellington boot mark, that's for sure. So all those, when they come together, yes, and in the time that I've had to put together, and I've made copious notes on what I'm still reading into it, so I might have got some things slightly wrong, but from the time I've spent, there are serious concerns about the lack of professional action required to corroborate Mr. Jasper's account. And when you come to Nicholls' account, even more, they didn't corroborate. They could have done a lot more in firming up on what Nicholls was saying. So you can almost, if you look, Jasper there, Nicholls there, I hate to say it, but Jasper's account has got a lot more weight to it than Nicholls, a self-confessed liar with no corroboration whatsoever, and the mobile phones have gone. That they're out the window at appeal court. What else we've uncovered is it Donna Jaggers, who I sense, well, not that's wrong, that's right, is it she had an unhealthy relationship with the DI Deputy SIO, DI Florence. I can name him because he's passed away. So I'm uncomfortable around the relationship that Donna Jaggers had with DI Florence. I haven't got my strong case to stand here and say X, Y, and Z. But when you look at the Uzi submachine gun, for starters, she makes a call to say that she found an Uzi. She calls DI Florence, comes and collects it, and a man called Mad McBowman is charged because she says that he supplied it to Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. So, and the timings of her statement, and she says that on the night in question, Donna Jaggers is, that they're off to see Mickey the pilot. She didn't know who Mickey the pilot was. She makes a statement and says, I've now been told that Mickey the pilot is Michael Steele. Well, who's told her? She hasn't done an ID page yet. He's not been nicked. So she doesn't know the guy that she's talking about, but she describes him. She doesn't know who Mickey the pilot is, but suddenly in her statement, Michael Steele's name comes up, and Michael Steele is Mick Steele, not Mickey. A play on words which could be relevant or not. So there's that area of concern between DI Florence, right, who's investigated separately later on in his career, or close to this, in relation to stolen cars and wrong cars wrapped round the Tate family, right? So there's a concern there that we haven't quite got to the bottom of. Was he in a corrupt relationship, and was he manipulating, what Donna Jaggers was saying? That's why I said in my first interview, we are concerned about the evidence that Donna Jaggers gave, because we have got information that Sarah Saunders says that from the Russell family, Russell Tate family, that they were going to meet Mick, not Mickey the pilot, Mick. And guess what name that was? That was Mick Mad Bowman, who's currently in custody for firearms, and he was arrested, and the question around, because he called the victims at 17:07 on the 6th, and that's never put him in interview. Now that could be a mistake, that could be an oversight, but the question I would be asking, okay, what were you talking to Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, it was Tucker's phone, on the night that they died? What was that all about? It could be completely innocent, but it wasn't. And then turning the circle round to the next call that we say the 1726 man, that is Paul Edwards. We can't find Paul Edwards. Paul Edwards does exist because I was told from a very close source, ex-copper who is now into licensing, that Paul Edwards, when he was wanted by Essex, legged it off to Tenerife to run a bar, and that he used to work for Tucker doing the wages, and that the solicitor rung up and said he doesn't want to talk to the police. Paul Edwards has never been interviewed, never been spoken to, totally and utterly just ignored as a potential witness or suspect to the movements of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe on the 6th of December. So that can't be right. So he's the 1826 man. The 1707 man, as I say, we talked about his Mad Mick Bowman. Those two people have not been dealt with professionally. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a bit difficult, and people say, God, what is he talking about? So it is a difficult one, but this has already been in the media. People have already written about this, so I'm giving some sort of basic knowledge to how those calls are important.
Yeah. So basically, they were left off of the trace.
Yeah. Essex Police never disclosed all the documents to the defence. So there may be. That's why I've said to the chief in my letter, I said I want to do a MADS trail. I want to do a progress detective review of your investigation of 1995 with my skills. I'll take your best detective. I'll take the best person from CCRC and let us do the right thing for the families, because this isn't just about Michael Steele and Jack Wilms. This is about Tucker, Tate and Rolfe's family, who want to be satisfied, surely, that the right people were convicted. Because, guess what? Mr. D could be the gunman who's the murderer, who's still out there. Yeah, but I've said already to you, I very much doubt if there'll be ever any evidence obtained to convict the person concerned, as we believe from TMI, are responsible for the Rettendon murders.
Can I just pick up on like Mr. D? Who is Mr. D? Or
right.
Where does he
I can't give you his full
story?
name, but Mr. D is well and truly connected with the German cannon town. Yes, he has got the background to. He's been arrested before and got off. He's got the ability to obtain a firearm and pull the trigger 8 times. One of the officers who knows him, we've been talking to, he has given us the history of Mr. D, and if you read the Tiberius report, you'll get some idea who I'm talking about.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, please be careful. I've got to be careful that I don't say something that will come back and bite me.
Just on a personal opinion,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of Mr. D. I'm not too much involved.
Well, the judge allowed Jasper to say Mr. D at trial.
Right.
So Mr. D is in the public domain, but I can't sit here and tell you who Mr. D is.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, my hairs would be up if Mr. D was chasing me, because he's got the ability to do what happened at the crime scene in Rettendon. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. What do you think the motive was for the murders?
I think we've covered that in the last interview. But the motives from the Crown's perspective, just repeating quickly, was the bad cannabis deal. Yeah, in relation to the defence's case, interesting. I think it's a combination. I don't just think it's the Patsy Clark trouble, because if you look at the behaviour of Tucker and Rolfe, with the Whitaker death, you know, the issue there, where he was found dumped at the side of a road with injection of all sorts of drugs in him.
Yeah,
and Mrs. Rolfe has talked about that. She went public and said that it was her son. So you've got that as a motive. You talk about the Blundell family. They have been on social media, and Billy Blundell, who's now passed away, he said that the warning was given, they didn't take any heed, so the contract was ordered. So there's a potential connection through that one. In relation to coming back to the £300,000 robbery, is that we've got David Redwin, who was, and this is interesting, which I haven't raised already, David Redwin, who's passed away, so I can quote his name. He was arrested and charged with an armed robbery that took place in Dagenham, Group 4 armed robbery. I was the DCI at Rig Approach when it happened, so I've got some inside knowledge on it, although I don't know that detail of it because I can't remember, and my staff dealt with it. I've spoken to the DC who did investigate it. He charged David Redwin, and David Redwin was a bouncer at Hollywood's nightclub. Tucker was in charge. You've then got a man called Colston, who was arrested the night before in a stolen Jaguar at Chelmsford. He was in custody, so he couldn't do it. You then got Roger Barclay, who, because the Jaguar had been seized by the police and Colston is in custody, uses his own personalised van, a red van, which is fortunately a witness in the forest on Dagenham's patch got the number, so he was arrested. Well, Redwin went off to Spain, came back. 6 months later, the team are nicked as a team, charged with the robbery, the Group 4 robbery, where 495 grand is stolen. They get convicted, appeal, a couple of years later, they get off, they come out, they're looking for the money. Guess what? It ain't around. I wonder who's got it. My suspicions are that all of it, probably not down to one person, but Tucker's been looking after it. That's my no hard evidence. That's the right. I keep using that expression. No hard evidence to suggest that, but if you look at how it all works out, there's a strong possibility that the money from that robbery was owed, and it was Patsy Clark's bit of work and of course the wheels come off from then. He buys a brand spanking new house in Suffolk. You with me? That was worth a few bob. You got it. The Porsche. They're running the Prince of Wales pub in South Ockenden. All those little bits of intelligence and information that we're getting as a team is all coming right. And then when you look at Edwards on the other angle, the 1826 call, he was doing the wages for Tucker in the nightclubs in Hollywood. So all that gives the review team a strong concern that Essex have missed the plot, and if they'd done the job right, because all it needed was one phone call into my staff at Rigger Portsmouth. I'd moved on from then, but one call in to say, because Tucker was interviewed, he was and he was struck as hell because he had the shop in Ilford. So my staff interviewed him there, and he was never charged because there was no evidence, but the others were. So in the round of corroborating Jasper's account, if they had done, putting the evidential intelligence dots together, they would have come up. And of course, the statement, here we go. Jasper, it says here, 3 different accounts. None of those accounts can be corroborated in any way. They didn't even start. They didn't even pick up the phone. And if they'd picked up the phone and talking to a certain officer who I used to, again, it's surreal really on how much connection I've got as a retired cop to this case. It's amazing.
There is so many different stories, isn't there? There's rumours of Leah Beck's dad was involved somehow.
Well, I've read that one as well, because he was interviewed and he was arrested on the night in question, and his alibi stacks up, I would say. And let's be fair, it was a bit quick, wasn't it? Yeah. But when you look at the current application before the CCRC, it's wrapped round somebody saying, I'm going to kill the people who actually supplied the ecstasy. Yeah. And when you look at it, guess who was running Raquel from the drugs perspective?
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker. Yeah. Tate and Rob. Well, Tate was locked away, wasn't he? Please listen to what I'm saying on that one. You're with me. He was locked away in custody for, and we haven't come to Nipper Reid yet, but Nipper Ellis. But when you look at it, he could still cause trouble from inside prison, but nowhere near the same as physically on the
I suppose you've still got your connections.
You've got your connections, but most certainly, I don't think we've gotten. And as I said, Jasper's account has not been bottomed out, has not been properly dealt with, and that is wrong in my eyes. You with me? That, to me, sure. Is it new evidence? That's a tough one. Some will say it's not, but it's a huge new concern that I don't think the public actually realise. You with me? And hence my question and the appeal the last time, which I'll repeat in this interview. We, TMI, need the help of the public in Essex, the people who know something about this case, even if we've got it totally wrong. No, if it's somebody else, then please pick up the phone and talk to us. We're not going to bite you, we're not going to nick you, we've got no power to do that. We just want to listen to what you've got to say. And I think that is very important, because I would hate to think that Michael Steele died in prison.
Yeah.
And it could be going that way.
Yeah. It's bad really, isn't it? There's so much evidence pointing that, towards Jack and Mick's innocence, but no one seems to be interested to help him out.
Well, if you look at historical, look at the Guildford 3 or the Birmingham 6 or whatever it was, and you look at a few others, there's the Cardiff 3, all that came together years and years later. You with me? And we as a group are saying, you've got a concern here, Essex. This needs a proper, it needs a reinvestigation. It needs a review first, in my view. There's 136 boxes in a safe storage in Essex that is a Rettendon file. They need re-looking, need re-examination. Forensically, we need to revisit the exhibits and just see, of what we are saying, is there any truth in the fact that Jasper's account was actually far, far more compelling than Nicholls' account.
Can I just ask your opinion on, obviously, Mick Steele and Jack Holmes were convicted of the same crime, yet Jack Holmes is out and Mick Steele is still in there. What is the reason for that?
That's interesting. I listened to John Woombs being interviewed by James English. I haven't met John Woombs. I've spoken to Jack Woombs, but only briefly, and they're concerned that anything they say to us will be seen as talking to the press, and that's part of his parole. Mm-hmm. He was a model prisoner, and I'll harp on again about it. When he was interviewed, when it came to murder, I did not do it, I'm not the type of person, etc. And when you look at his previous convictions, there's none for, he's just not that type of
petty crime.
Diesel, nicking diesel or fraud of diesel and all sorts of minor things that just no way in the month of Sundays. Model prisoner, did everything that he could. He was dyslexic. He with me, if you listen to the interviews. Have you been to Rettendon? No, I've never been to Rettendon. Oh, I've been to Rettendon, didn't realise I'd been to Rettendon. So, and that was the first time in my life. So, he said no to that. So, so that is how it was at the time, and they made a big play on that. He'd been to Rettendon, and his mobile phone comes up allegedly, or at least Workhouse Lane and the Wheat Sheaf is Rettendon. So, that didn't help his case in any way, shape, or form. I do believe that that Jack Holmes is unbelievably, totally innocent. Really, really. We asked the question very on is, did Steele and Holmes, although they might not have pulled the trigger, were they involved in setting it up? Is there something behind the scenes that we've missed? And I kept that in mind for a long time, kept it. And then when I spoke to him in prison on the Zoom, and listened to what he was saying, and he fired straight back to me a couple of weeks later, challenging what I was saying, what I thought. So we had a conversation, which was actually, is he right? Is Steele actually telling me the truth? Yeah, and I honestly do believe he is. Listen, he's a villain, right? He's a drug importer. He'll deny that because the charges that went before the jury were not the one when they were nicked on the day when it was found in his mum's, because the Crown very carefully wanted to separate that away from the bird issue and the corruption and all the aggravation that gave the case. So Nicholls' account was based on the importations evidence against Steele, Steele being abroad with getting the money, and Nicholls with his credit card paying for hotel and Steele paying for hotel. So that all got sucked into the murder trial as well. You with me? Yeah. What Mickey Steele will say is, I am not an importer, I'm not the top man. Yes, in relation to the charge, if it had gone before the jury on the day they were arrested in May 1996, I'm a courier and I'm a safe house provider. That parcel was nothing to do with me. Talk to Nicholls, talk to DC Bird. That's the message that he's giving me, and there's a bit of reality there. That could be the case, as simple as that. But going back to Jack, sorry, he is just a. I wanted to meet him and shake his hand and say sorry, because I do think, as a retired cop, the cops have let him down. Yeah. Really, really, really let him down. And when you go into Nicholls' account, and I don't want to bore you with this one, but there was no proper actions allocated as a result of what he was saying. Listen, he told lies almost straight away. I parked on the left before I dropped Holmes off. Then he says I turned right and parked on the left. When it comes to trying to get the number plate, are you saying that a man who is going to go and assassinate 3 men is going to use his own vehicle, right, and then try and stick the false number plates on with sticky tape, at the car park at the halfway house? Absolute nonsense.
Come on. Too much attention on
Oh, no, they were allegedly, in a lay-by, trying to change, and he said it was done after they left the halfway house, and then suddenly it comes before. You with me? So, and then he was taken out by the interviewing officers, this is Nicholls, and run the route of what he said happened on the 6th. And when I've sat back in the cold light of day and looked at it, it don't stack up. Yeah. And I'm not going to bore you, sorry, I've said that already. It is a real cause for concern that what I describe as the victim and suspect timeline does not marry up. And if they'd done their job right, Essex, I would have stuck a camera on him. I said, right, tell us what you did and drive the route. Drive the route and tell us what you did and what you saw, etc. They never bothered timing from the Hungry Horse pub where they got back into Steele's Hilux, allegedly, all the way back to Mark's Tate and then up to where he lives. Forget the next town up. Is it back? What's the next one up? Basildon or Brentford? I can't remember. Anyway, he's home. Never did that. They never, i.e. Essex Police, checked the Range Rover timings, and that was in their intelligence. 6 o'clock, or if you look at Jaggers, 5:45 at Lakeside, 6 o'clock at Bobbing. Is it Bobbing or Fobbing? Fobbing. And then you've got Gordon Road, and then you've got the Basildon Tire Company. And then on Nicholls' account, he says 18:30 is when the two came together in the car park. He watched them, and the Range Rover pulled up next to Michael Steele, and off they go in tandem. So they've gone off ahead. So all that has not been. Another one for me is, we used to use offender profilers in them days. Not a single offender, not saying, it's a tool in the toolbox. It's somebody independent looking at what the police have got to see if it fits their experience as offender profilers. Not one. And it's never been reviewed. I'll harp on about that. No one in Essex has invited somebody independent or within their own force to sit down and do what I've done for the last 15 years before retiring, and that is review, a progress review, what they've done. And they would have picked up on all those issues that I'm raising now. And it would be a recommendation: you missed that, do that; you missed that, do that; you missed that, do that. And listen, I'm not pretending that it was easy for them. You had the media on the back. What they should have done is, on the day of arrest, charge everybody with the job that they had, bank rights, the importation, all those who were arrested as part of that. Very good, very detailed, very the importation job, apart from a little hiccup when they lost, the rib coming in, but they knew where the drugs were. Charge that lot. Nicholls, I want to tell you about what I've done. Park him out of the way, get him into a unit, debrief him, properly corroborate what he's got to say, and if it stacks up, Mr. Steele, Mr. Whomes, in you come, this is what we've uncovered, X, Y and Z, charge him with murder, because you've got it. They didn't do that. And that is what, again, in hindsight, sitting back and saying, yeah, it's easy, why are you sitting here 26 years later and saying this is what you should have done? Well, I hate to say it, but this is what you should have done. And then you would have been able to see what Nicholls was doing, and that was manipulating some truths and telling lies on others. Why does Mr. Tony Thompson, a journalist, allowed into his cell to talk about a book, and he gets paid out before he gives his evidence?
I heard that. Was that true? So he got paid for the book?
100%. He got paid out. And on the day in question, the 1st of August 1996, guess what? There's no record in his custody record, his detention record, to say that he went up the West End to meet Tony Thompson and the lady who was going to authorise the cheque, because she wanted to meet the person in question who took them there. And this has all been subject of Operation Obtain, and that's why I would like to speak to DCS Reid. He was a DCS Reid at the time, he's probably retired now, to say, please come and tell me what you think about this case. Because his letter from CCRC was, don't put any personal thoughts into the inquiries that you're making. On your bike. If I thought, if I had been in charge of Obtain and I thought that something was wrong, I would bloody say it.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Absolute nonsense.
Can I just touch on, I won't say names, but as a certain author has had his opinion on the murders, and also Steve Nipper-Ellis, he's gave a version of his timeline of events. Can I just ask your personal opinion on them two different people's stories?
Now, Lee, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you or disclose this interview to you personally was that you interviewed him. You interviewed him in a boxing ring in Southend, I think, or wherever it was.
Ellis, yeah.
This is Nipper Ellis.
That's how we started out with our first interview.
Is it really? So
yeah.
here, and you did that on January the 1st, or it came out, no, you did it before, but it came out on the first.
New Year.
New Year, you're right. New Year. I sat here and I looked at it, I said, shit, we've got somebody who's given a different account. We need to talk to him. Fortunately, with the contacts, they contact him and he agreed to Zoom, right? So we've got a Zoom meeting with Nipper. Nipper, he is, I'll call him a rascal. You with me? The motive was there 100%. You with me?
Yeah.
He got Tate locked away again because of the aggravation when he went to shoot him in his bungalow, and all the history that goes with it. So when you look at Nipper's account to say, well, I didn't do it, but my dad did it. The first question I asked him, and I said, okay, Nipper, why have you waited 4 years to tell the public that your dad did it? That was number one. You said that a man called Alvin was actually the guy who was in the back of the Range Rover. Well, we proved that Alvin, he was a baby. No, it wasn't a baby, he was about 19 or 20 at the time. And he admitted the next day when we interviewed him that he got that wrong, it wasn't Alvin. Where's the gun? I don't know where the gun's gone with me. So he's saying his dad did it. I think that he did it because of what was coming in the horizon in relation to the person you just talked about, and it was his way of getting back at him. You with me? Because he most certainly he's a snake. I think that's the best way to describe it. You know, he's sitting on the fence and you listen to, or I'll use the word, engross the family to get the account there, and then interview there, and then stab him in the back there. You with me? So, and make a bloody bomb out of it. That's the pun. Yeah, so that's in relation to Nipper. Lovely bloke to talk to, seriously. I know he's a villain, but he didn't. His dad didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Or if he did it, give me the corroboration. You know, just tell me, you with me, exactly where the gun went. Talk me through all the issues that go with it. And listen, Nipper Ellis was definitely a suspect, and he with me, he's named on 196. Yeah. So he's in the system. He was interviewed at the time as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think he's,
and he was told, well, he went to prison, didn't he? He got nicked for that assault, and he was out. Yeah, he was out, but he was keeping out the way down in Dorset. He was down in Dorset out the way, and only came up now and again. Mm-hmm. And he said he was out nicking, that night in question, he was eyeing up a lorry to nick the contents of a van with somebody else from Cannondale. Yeah. That's my honest opinion. I'm probably right.
Do you think there could be a connection with his dad and the other lot of?
Well, his dad actually was well connected, wasn't he? With me?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think if Nipper was connected with, Nipper knew the people who were charged with the robbery I talked about, the Group 4. He knew David Redwin. You with me? So there's a connection there which could have led back the other way. I don't know. I haven't looked deep enough. Once we were happy that Nipper was, I don't think he's telling lies. He's just gilding a little bit, just to bring that whole issue to, because you know what happened after that. All the sites get locked down, and there's aggravation over copyright and everything that goes with it.
Right,
So and you got caught in that as well.
A bit of mayhem, didn't it?
It caused mayhem, yeah. Right. So said it once and say it again. Lovely bloke, a rascal. Look, he's been through hell, hasn't he, in his life?
Yeah.
You look at his illnesses. It's just amazing. Yeah, nice guy.
So can I just ask you, is there any interesting details on the timeline of the event?
Yeah. One in particular for me, and it's what the judge told the jury, and what we were told by Nicholls, that, and from the mobile phone evidence, is that at 1844, the judge and Nicholls told the jury, that was the evidence, and that's what the judge said in the summing up. At 1844, the Range Rover, Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, and Steele in the back were just turning in to Workhouse Lane, which is a 1-minute drive down to the 5-bar gate, the crime scene, where they were assassinated. So that's the time it's gone to the jury, 1844, right? So, and that's confirmed by Sarah Saunders calling Pat Tate to say, sorry about the argument with the car and the aggravation they were having, and they made up, for want of a better word. So it was a 3-minute phone call, and that is what the jury heard. Bring it back on the Range Rover's timeline, and when you look at where the Range Rover was to get to 1844 at the top of the lane, it doesn't fit, because we know the Range Rover was at Gordon Road at 1806. We now hear from Claire that she saw it, and she saw it leave. We know from Andrew Reynolds that he saw it near the Basildon Tire Company, and we know from Nicholls that at 1830, or just before, it was in the car park at the halfway house. Nicholls' timing with the police from Essex, from the halfway house down to the Hungry Horse for Steele to get in, and then back to Rettendon and down and into the 5-bar gate and the crime scene, doesn't fit. There's 12 minutes where it just doesn't fit. And if you turn the 1844 call back, it had to leave 49 Gordon Road about 7 minutes before that time. Does that make sense? So yeah. You've got the 1844 call. We know from what Sarah Saunders has said that when she saw Michael Steele and Jackie Steele and Jordan, the son, the Sunday they went out to dinner, they talked about that call. Yeah, so you've got knowledge there. And we know Nicholls, when they was working at the Meadow Cottage, they were talking about that call. Because what Nicholls says is that when he was being driven back from the Hungry Horse to Mark's Tay, Steele told him that about the phone call and said, oh, that was a good job that she didn't mention my name, but all she said was I was with people, and that's what she said to the police. So you've got that 1844 call, yeah, which is a serious cause for concern for me, and that hasn't been properly explained to the jury. And when you look at the cell site for the 1844 call from Wickford, Rettendon, Hill and Church is in the way, and it wasn't within the line of sight. So that small part of the timeline is something I'm highlighting here today. So the question would be, where was the Range Rover at 1844? Because it couldn't have been in the Hungry Horse car park, or if it was, it just arrived, and it's another 9 minutes to get to the crime scene, at least.
I suppose as well, them weather conditions on that day would have also delayed it and slowed it down as well. I
haven't taken into account the weather in any way, shape or form. I've looked at Nicholls' account, I've looked at the defence account, I've done AA Route Planner, and Roy, my friend, has done Google Map and prepared all the graphics for it. And Lee, it doesn't fit. And that's a Scottish expression of it. All right, it is subjective, I accept that, but you just can't keep, yeah, and the timings are much the same in the shorter period. So from here to my front door is probably 5 seconds, and there will always be 5 seconds unless you build a motorway in between, or my dear wife gets in the way and stops me. So that short distance is always almost the same. It is, every time we do the short distance. And the Range Rover is short distances. So that's where I am in relation to that. And as I said, I can describe that on my incident graphic wall to you if necessary.
Yeah, we can have a look at that. So final question, Albert, a big one. In your own personal opinion, who do you think killed Pat, Tony and Craig?
Well, I know who it wasn't. Who did it? The intelligence, the information, the gut feeling of the TMI, and that's just not me, that's the rest of the team, is it was Mr. D. Until Mr. D is eliminated, and you can eliminate him quickly. All right, if it happened now, mobile phone, CCTV at the places you should have been, he's nicked and he's interviewed and he's alibied, right? So that would be the very quick and efficient way to deal with it. And if it all comes out negative, then it wasn't Mr. D. I think their behaviour, when I say behaviour, Tucker and Rolfe's behaviour in the days leading up to the murder upset a few people, just not the one person. I think it's a combination of motives that has come together to say enough's enough. And I use that now. Enough's enough with people messing about with the truth of what's happened in Essex on the 6th of December, and it's time to come forward now and talk to me. I'm just a normal human guy here with me who just wants the truth. That's all I want. As I said before, I'm not getting paid, I'm not writing a book, I'm not making a film. The truth has not been uncovered. Who did it? It more than likely was Mr. D. It could have been Mr. X, but I've got heavy people close to the firm in Essex who say we're on the right lines when we say Mr. Patsy Clark ordered it. You can work out from there who did it. And that is 100% Patsy Clark ordered that murder, the murder. I'll finish it there, shall I?
Yeah, we'll wrap up there. Thank you ever so much for coming.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.